Hey, do you guys have memories of baking cakes and stuff with your mom?
Yeah.
When you were a kid?
Yeah.
Yeah. My mother always let me lick the beaters, And good mothers will let you lick the beaters when they're making a cake. But great mothers turn the mixer off first.
Mm.
My mother was a good mother.
It just makes it a challenge. You got to not get your tongue stuck in there.
Yeah, especially when you want to play guitar when you're 10 years old.
It brings new meaning to tongue-tied.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Finger tied.
Oh, my God.
All right, guys. Security this week. I'm Carl Franklin. That's Patrick and Dwayne, and they are the brains behind this operation. And I ask the dumb questions. So we have, 6 stories today?
I thought we had 7.
Oh, yeah, we do have 7. Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
See, counting is my department.
I absolutely have, exported that function.
Yeah.
All right. So the first story, Security Advisory, Ivanti CSA 4.6, a cloud service appliance.
And we've talked about this.
Yeah.
But now it's being seen exploited in the wild. And there is an update. There is a patch. So, that's good news. The good news is that there's a patch now. The bad news is it's actually being exploited in the wild.
So what is the exploit for this Ivanti cloud service appliance?
This is the one with the authentication bypass that makes you an administrator. Along with
yeah.
command execution. We did talk about this.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
When we had Dwayne. By the way, welcome back, Dwayne.
Yeah, welcome
Thank
back.
you.
You feeling okay?
Yeah, I am. I've been catching and no end of crap from my my robotics team because I've been out with COVID.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Pokemon.
No, they're like finally a virus Dwayne can't stop.
Very good.
I was
Very
like,
good.
oh, well played.
Maybe
This is ground zero.
Yes. So this was disclosed on the 19th of September, I think, it's patched. There's a patch available.
Yeah.
Okay.
So critical vulnerability, the big update is it's starting to be seen in the wild. And that's the message of you better patch this.
Right.
You better patch this or else somebody's going to come sniffing around and do some damage.
If people are exploiting it, you don't want them to hit you.
Right.
Yeah. So this was had a CVSS score of 9.4. I can't remember what the STW contagion score was.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd have to go back and look. I'm sure our listeners will let us know.
But if you think about it, this is something that's on the internet, right?
Yeah.
Well, there's a quote in the article that says, quote, dual home CSA configuration with ETH0 as an internal network, as recommended by Ivanti, are at a significantly reduced risk of exploitation. So I think it depends on which ports you're using for which networks.
Mm-hmm.
So if you do what they said, it's less of an issue. If you don't do what they said, then you could really open yourself up. And based on my experience, and I don't know about Dwayne's and yours, Carl, half of these are probably configured wrong.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
People don't RTFM, read the manual.
Right.
Yeah, honestly, and that's what we typically see with security vulnerabilities. It's not that we're discovering, 0 days here at Pulsar Security like every day. It's really just lots of times, honestly, like I'll give you a super pen testy hacky trick. Read the manual. That's all we do. Like, I can't tell you how many manuals I have read to see how things are supposed to be configured, and then test how they're actually configured. And usually that's the difference.
You would be horrified to know what percentage of QA testing and security testing is only performed on the default configuration.
Yeah.
If I could give you a number higher than 100%, I would give you that number.
Right.
But it's very close, vanishingly close to 100%. Most organizations, most developers don't conceive of how and how their users are going to use the system.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So Dwayne and I have been associated with many different products. And it's just shocking how people will take something and use it completely differently. And that impacts its security profile because, well, this wasn't meant to be used this way. None of the protections are against that use because we didn't envision it. And so even if you do read the manual, If you're doing something outside the scope, that's why you need to have it tested.
Yeah.
You can't count on the vendor.
Well, it's the hacker's mantra, isn't it? The first thing that they do is they look in the manual for default passwords and accounts.
Oh, absolutely.
And try those.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, I mean, if this whole hacking gig falls apart, like you could be hired as a network administrator on pretty much any piece of software because we've read all the manuals. Like you name it, we've read it. So.
You know, to that point, you could also upload the manuals to your favorite LLM, have them figure it out, and then ask them questions.
Well, now you just
maybe you might get something out of that.
breaking all our secrets.
I like it. I was going to say I can't confirm or deny that we may have a general AI that gives us hacking tips.
But you got to know what questions to ask.
If you take a software manual and you look for things that are considered misconfigurations, those are going to happen in the wild.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can just look for systems with those misconfigurations. And it's not a bug. It's the fact that they're not configured correctly. And that's a big way to get into a lot of organizations is they didn't configure something correctly. They didn't shut a port. They opened something up for testing and didn't close it down for production, those kinds of things.
Shut your port.
That's right.
All right.
Your porthole.
Well, it is crazy how often in a manual we see like bolded, hey, for your first installation, this is going to be there, but you should remove it in production.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever this is. Like it used to be like WordPress. You could go to the setup.php and actually reset up WordPress. And even though you had no usernames and passwords, and it'd say, hey, here's all your database strings and that sort of stuff. And you're like, really? But yeah, you're supposed to lock those down. You're supposed to remove them. And it's, some of that's in the manual and some of that's all gone away. But yeah, honestly, I think most vendors give you a recommended way to install things that are reasonably secure. It's just reading the manual and following it.
They definitely give you enough rope to hang yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, let's move on to the next story if we can. This is reported by the BBC.
Rail terror.
Yeah, rail terror. Admin account blamed for rail terror message hack. And I
got really excited when I saw this one. So
there's a picture here of this says 19 railway stations have been affected by a cyber attack. And there's people looking at the travel schedule going, what?
Yeah. So like I said, I get excited when I saw this one because, I don't know if you remember, but the Pulsar Security, red team went down to DC, to hack into some trains a while ago last year.
Yeah, this is a thing that Patrick keeps having agita over you talking about.
Know, right? And
Dwayne,
when I saw that this article, so just to come to this article, what happens is there was an outside actor who had breached not the railway system, but the internet service provider that manages the railway system, and they said it was an admin account.
Yeah.
And then they changed the default or the capture page on the web, the wireless portal. So when you join a wireless portal, it pops up usually pops up a page. Welcome to, I don't know, Marriott Hotels or whatever it may be, and give us your room number and whatever. And what this was doing is they had changed that page to have a bunch of fake sort of terrorist attack information, almost like it was from CNN. And then there was all sorts of janky ads on that page that if you clicked on would potentially bring you to some dodgy sites.
But you would expect that, right? I mean, you don't expect people to cut out letters in the newspaper and paste them together with Elmer's glue and make messages on posters for you. I mean, that's what they try to do. They make them look legitimate, right?
Oh, absolutely. No, they look amazing. Like it is super easy to clone a website and make it look just like the original.
The Onion is a perfect example of how something that looks like an official news story and even uses the same parlance and the same language as an official, but is completely surreal and ridiculous, can actually mess with your brain.
And it's so I got excited about this because I saw Wi-Fi, and when we were breaking into trains, there are ways to force train controllers over 2.4 gigahertz to do certain things, which I won't talk about. So I thought this was like, this is the public sort of disclosure around some of the things we've seen, but no,
okay, but it's not.
This is just somebody compromising an account and then changing the Wi-Fi captive portals. But still, be careful. Like if you connect to a system and that page that pops up, we all trust it, right? that says, hey, you're at Marriott. Hey, you're at Starbucks. Hey, you're at, we've all seen them where they have that, little, here's your user agreement and you're going to click OK. And so you're not going to do, hacking over Starbucks Wi-Fi and that sort of stuff. Just realize that page, if you've connected to the wrong network, that page may not be from Starbucks. And if you are at Starbucks, there's a possibility something like this happens, where that page has been manipulated in some way, where now, even though you are legitimately connected to the right network, there's you got to be careful.
So this situation was ameliorated and they're doing an investigation, the article says. But what's interesting is that they listed the number or the affected stations. So in London, Cannon Street, London Bridge, Charing Cross, Clapham Junction, Euston, King's Cross, Liverpool Street, Paddington. Holy
Not
crap.
the Bear.
Victoria and Waterloo. Well, Paddington Station is huge, right?
Yeah, it is.
In the southeast,
station.
Yeah, it is. In the southeast, you got Reading and Guildford. In the northwest, you got Manchester, Piccadilly, and Liverpool Lime Street.
Piccadilly's big too. I mean, they're all big.
They're all big, right?
Yeah.
And in Scotland, Edinburgh, Waverley, and Glasgow Central.
Right.
In West Yorkshire, you got Leeds. You got in the west, Midlands, Birmingham, New Street.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now, here's the question. Did it cause panic or did people go, it's probably fake?
So
I don't know.
Because we're getting to that point where people are like, it's probably fake.
So that's a great question. They have a quote here from this Chris Dyson guy from Leeds who saw it on Wednesday. And he was like, the screen lit up with a bizarre security alerts and some dodgy pop-ups. And he said, I started to panic slightly. Like, what if something's gone wrong or is more sinister, right? But it doesn't sound like there was mass panic.
Right.
It also sounds like the service provider actually pulled the Wi-Fi for a while.
Right. Yeah, they disabled it.
To mitigate more people connecting to it. So I think it was caught relatively early.
Well, that's good.
You know what? I don't even know. How would you, let's say you're on the railway. Let's say the three of us were doing a road tour through Ireland for security this week, and we connect to the public Wi-Fi.
Or a train tour.
And we see this, like, where would you report that?
Yeah, right. I don't know.
I don't know.
I would call you. That's what I would do.
And ask me to stop hacking it? Okay.
Or maybe you would make a post on our new Discord channel.
Ooh, there you go.
Should we talk about that?
Ooh, yes.
Yeah, sure. Hit it.
All right. Now, it might not be up as you hear this because we're literally just put it up an hour ago and there's nothing on there as of this recording, but the URL will be discord.securitythisweek.com. Right?
Yep, absolutely. And here's what we're looking for is we've definitely had people asking us, how do I interact more with the Security This Week team? How do I maybe get pop-ups when new and breaking things happen, right? And Discord's actually a really great platform for that type of thing, for that type of community where you can ask questions and we can jump in and answer them, or we can kind of keep you up to date on really what's going on in the cyber world. So that's our goal.
And our goal is also, one of our goals is to post these issues as they come up, so you don't have to wait every week for Security This Week to hear about them. And also not only to give you the CVSS score, but also the Security This Week contagion score, which we actually create.
Right.
And that's how likely are you to actually get this, to be affected by this hack or vulnerability or whatever. All right, let's move on. Tails OS. You got to tell us what that is. Merges
Sonic's friend.
With Tor project for better privacy and security. So let's start with Tor.
Well, so Tor is the onion router, and it's designed to help people who are in places where they are imperiled, such as Iran, North Korea, to not be traced if they are doing journalism, if they're doing activism, if they're doing just communications that the government wouldn't like.
Yeah, if they're committing crimes.
It's criminal career advice.
It's certainly, I'm sure it's used in that way as well, but it's really meant about helping people to escape oppressive regimes.
Yeah,
by
it's
keeping
privacy.
themselves, private.
Well, and I would say, honestly, so we used to use Tor a fair bit. But the problem is when using Tor, let's say you're using Tor for hacking purposes. If you're doing it as a pen tester, so legitimately using something like Tor, you can't. Like you can't use Tor against a customer that you're working an engagement on. Reason being is you have no control over that data, right? It's routing all around the world through servers you don't control that aren't normal paths. So let's say I find an exploit doing a test for Bank of America, and I'm routing it through Tor. Whoever owns those Tor nodes could potentially see that and go, cool, I just found a new exploit for Bank of America.
Right.
So you want to be careful if you are using Tor. A lot of people will move over to sort of less dodgy ways, like VPN, right? Using a VPN is great if you have a VPN provider that you like, using them and VPNing in, whether it's like, I know Proton puts out VPNs. There's a lot of VPNs out there that you can use. But
Tor kind of is a VPN. I mean, it is that.
Oh, absolutely.
But it's more complicated.
It's a multi-stop. It's more like the hacker is routing through Spain now they're hacking. It's kind of that kind of thing.
Yeah, it tries to go through so many hoops that it can't be traced.
Yeah, you still have so a little bit of warning, since I'm the one that writes the contracts. We'd still we use our own VPNs, not Norton or Nord or any of those, because our clients don't have an NDA with those organizations, and we've not cleared it with them. So
got it.
You want to make sure your client knows, hey, we're going to use NordVPN for this if you're going to do that. They might be fine with that. But now you've got another link in the supply chain that can be attacked. If Nord gets breached and their data is, long shots, not likely, but possible.
So for legitimate customer like pen tests and that sort of stuff, no, you shouldn't be using Tor. If you're a journalist in North Korea, Tor's great. If you're a hacker, most of the Tor endpoints have been mapped. So what that means is there's a lot of firewalls out there that actually block where you would come out of the Tor cloud. So when you go into Tor, you move around a bunch of places. You have to come out at some point. And a lot of firewalls now
those are known endpoints.
Have a lot of those endpoints and will block you. So as a hacker, not really fantastic to use Tor either. However, if you are a hacker and you do want to use something, it's real easy. It's really easy to spin up VPN endpoints in AWS and Azure.
I've already played the music, so just imagine it playing in your head right now.
So if you spin them up in AWS and Azure, nobody blocks those.
And Tor.
Oh my God, I can't believe you're saying this.
One of the things against Tor as well is there were hints and rumors and claims that the federal government in the US had taken over a large share of the Tor servers, so that if you're being oppressed in Russia, you can get away. But if you're attacking the United States, well, we're probably going to find you. So it's not bulletproof.
All right. So now let's go back to the story. Tails OS merges with Tor.
Right.
So what is Tails OS, and why is this beneficial for both parties?
So Tails is actually really kind of cool. So imagine you have your computer, and you're gonna, let's say we're gonna connect to a public Wi-Fi, and I don't want to have my personal laptop connected to the public Wi-Fi because there might be damaging things or whatever. Or let's say I'm doing something seedy on the internet, whatever it may be.
Or there might be Troy Hunt with a pineapple lurking around the corner.
Yeah, there you go. Right. I got a good pineapple story for you offline at some point. Okay. But anyways, so what Tails is you take this OS, you download it to a USB. It's, I don't know, 1.5 gigs or something like that. And when you want to boot your computer where you don't want anything ever saved, you boot to the USB. It boots an entire operating system, but imagine the entire operating system is in read-only mode. Like when you shut down,
no file saved,
nothing saves. It starts exactly new every single time.
No browser history.
No log
browser
files.
history, no files, no cookies, no nothing. Every time you turn that OS on, like I said, it's literally like a read-only operating system.
Wow.
So you then connect to the network, you do whatever you want to do, you get your information, and when you shut down, start up the next time, it's brand new again.
But don't check your Facebook while you're on it.
Well, there's
okay. Is it a graphical UI? I can't imagine it is.
Yeah. It's a
Linux
graphical UI. Yep, Linux-based Debian. Open it up. It has this system called Amnesia where it will actually forget everything. But it's
I love it.
It's pretty legit if you're concerned where you're going.
And it's been using Tor, for all network communications.
Yep.
And so they've been working for 9 years, I think, with Tor, and now they're merging. Now they're going to be a single team. So that means instead of coordinating, they'll just work together.
I think that's pretty cool.
That is neat.
All right. Well, let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back after these very important messages. Stay tuned. All right, we're back. You're listening to Security This Week. I'm Carl Franklin. That's Patrick Hines and Dwayne LaFlotte. And just as a reminder, if you don't want to hear these ads, you can get for $5 a month on Patreon, you can get an ad-free feed. And all you have to pay is $5 a month. Become a Patreon patron and go to patreon.securitythisweek.com to get that going. All right. So the next one, our old friend SQL injection is back in the news.
Woohoo! And WordPress. It's like a match made in
Christmas.
I know.
It's Christmas, Hanukkah, and Rosh Hashanah all wrapped in one.
So there is a WordPress plugin called the Events Calendar.
Of course it is.
Right? Super generic. And this is a 9.8 on the CVSS score. And one of the reasons I wanted to bring this up, it's 9.8. There's 700,000 active installs of it right now.
Oh my God.
Out on the internet. So pretty large install base. The SQL injection is super easy to do. Mm-hmm. It's literally, there's in the URL bar, there's an order by field. Like
okay,
order by equals name.
Should I play this again?
Just make that bookend the show with that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, start at the beginning. So there's an order
this
field.
Episode.
There is, right? This is the hackers episode. There's an order field at the end of the URL. So imagine you go to like www.securitysthisweek.com/ what's the next events.php question mark, order by equals, and then you can put a field in. And in this field, it is completely injectable. There's no sanitization of the input. So instead of saying order by, date, I could say order by, give me a list of all your usernames and passwords. Super easy to exploit.
One would hope that in this day and age when AI is the new thing, one of the first real applications of this is going to be on these repositories that, or places where you upload code that can inspect your code and find SQL injection points and things like this. Find the low-hanging fruit. This SQL injection is literally low-hanging fruit.
Oh my God,
you could look at the code, even if you're not a programmer, and say, yep, that's SQL injectable.
Hey, Mr. Developer, if you ever concatenate a string and then send it to a database, you've just performed a potential SQL injection.
You've just performed
I think we've been hoping for tools, and AI is just the next round of this that will save us from ourselves for so long. And I really think that the solution is better training for developers on security.
Yeah, but you can't train them all. The dumb outweighs the smart, man.
I'm willing to. I'm willing to try. I think that's got to be part of the solution. I think they
have to be willing to buy it, though. And they don't care.
Yeah, it's kind of like the U.S. government has been like, if we wait long enough, the Iranian government will just collapse. And it didn't.
Right.
So it's the same thing here. If we wait long enough, there'll just be a tool that will fix it all, and it won't. So
yeah, I agree. Developer education absolutely has to be part of it. But, and to Carl's comment, I know GitHub already has vulnerability scanning built in. They're already applying some AI to, hey, this looks like vulnerable code, and they do notify you, like, hey, this looks vulnerable. Are you sure
didn't solve it?
This?
That didn't solve the problem.
Touche, Patrick.
Well, I'm sure this WordPress plugin isn't on GitHub, right?
It's probably not. And a lot of these are closed source. That makes it really hard. But here's what I'd say. This is a CVSS of 9.8. There's 700,000 active installs. I would argue that the Security This Week contagion score is probably in the 4 or 5s.
Okay, why do you say that?
And here's why. By default, the function that is exploitable is the tribe_has_next_event function, which is not implemented. So it's not a function that is used by default by the plugin. Yes, but if you went in and modified it.
But you just told everybody how to exploit it. So the contagion score is higher already.
No. What he's saying the developer has to put it in their code. Has to call that function.
You haven't implemented it in your instance, which is probably 1% of instances that have used that.
It'd be hard, yeah. But you have to manually add this function and call it on one of your pages. Then yes, there is an order by that can be exploited. But if you're not, you're probably okay. So should you update?
Yes, there is a patch.
Yeah, you should always update. But
patch.
And most people who use WordPress plugins aren't modifying code.
No,
they're using WordPress because they don't like thinking about code.
You're right. No, you're right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I agree with Dwayne. I think it's unlikely. It's potential. It has a potentiality, though.
Yeah. So contagion score is low on this one, people.
But if you patch, your contagion score is 0.
0. Right. 0 is better than
0 is better.
Well, wait. Anything. I would not say 0. I would say like 0.1 because there's probably, if the developer here, and this is just me playing devil's advocate, but if the developer didn't understand SQL injection on this call, what are the odds that there's another one in there?
True.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Probably really good.
Well, but we can't provide contagion scores on things we know nothing about. So
Right.
Oh, I mean, we can. I'm sure there's a 9.999 lurking in every piece of software we've ever heard of.
With enough whiskey and enough time and a dinner, we could probably come up with a whole bunch of them. Yeah. Okay, let's move on. TeamViewer urges users to patch priv-esque flaws. That's privilege escalation flaws. Couple of CVEs, 7479 and 7481. What's this one all about?
This one's pretty awesome. So let's say we break into this box, right?
Yeah.
And you go to yourself, okay, I break into this box and the box is fully patched and there's not much I can do. But the customer, victim, whoever, has installed TeamViewer on the box, right? And all TeamViewer is a remote application where you can connect to the box and control it.
Isn't TeamViewer an RCE all unto itself?
It is. It's its own rat.
No, I think you got the letters wrong. It's an RDP.
Remote rat is a remote access Trojan.
Yes. So you install. You have TeamViewer on this box so that you as an administrator can control it. Usually that has to run as an elevated privilege. It can't run as a normal user. Usually runs it as administrator or system or whatever it is. Apparently, there is a improper verification for cryptographic signatures for installing drivers.
Oh, I hate when that happens.
Oh my God.
So you can install...
You kind of want to get that right when you're installing drivers.
Yeah, that run at the lowest level. So you can...
Lowest levels.
You can ask TeamViewer to install like a VPN driver or a print driver or whatever that's been manipulated by you. And it's like, oh yeah, cool. And it gives you, unfettered access to the box. So,
jeez.
Yeah, definitely. If you're using this, go patch.
So there's a patch. So what if you don't patch? What's the CVSS score?
Yeah. Worst case scenario, let's say you don't patch. What'll happen is that the attacker gets on the box as a low-level user, right? So that's number one. Attacker has to be on the box. This isn't exploitable remotely. You have to be on the box somehow. So that means if you're running a web server on here, I've breached the web server and got a command shell as a low-level user. If you're running some application, I've found some way to break in and get access as a low-level user. If this is a box that's on the network and I have a user account, I've been able to log into it. So I need one of those ways. I need to get on this box in some way.
So that lowers the contagion score.
User. It does.
Right there.
Yeah, quite a bit.
And the CVSS is 8.8.
Right.
Now, does that 8.8 take into account how difficult it is to, the prerequisites for it?
No, and I think that's one of the problems with the CVSS scores is that they look at this small piece. Like, this is a privilege escalation. How hard is it to escalate?
Right.
How reliable is that escalation? Does it cause an outage? Does it cause, us, what they call, do I lose access to the system? So there's a lot of things they use in that evaluation. But what they don't do is say, okay, I get it. This is super exploitable, but how hard is it to get to that point?
Right.
To get on the box, right? And that's
important. That's actually the biggest failing, I think, with this scoring system.
That's why we have the contagion score.
Right. So like I wouldn't rate this as an 8. Right. Here again, I'd probably put this as a 3 or 4. If you have a box that has some other exploit on it, then you need to be worried about this. But if not,
but there's a patch.
There's a patch. Go patch. But I wouldn't hype this one up.
Go patch. But they say that the risk is particularly for those operating older versions of the software. So that should be a red flag for you, just to go make sure that all your software is up to date. Yep. Okay, let's move on. U.S. proposes ban on connected vehicle tech from China and Russia.
This was my story.
Big surprise. Took you long enough. What's the matter here?
In light of what's been going on around the world, and let's
what has it been going on?
The supply chain attack in Lebanon, and the idea that your stuff is dangerous based on where you get it from.
Oh, and Russia threatening World War III. Yeah,
things like that.
No big deal.
Stuff. Whatever.
Yeah. In light of that, there's been rumblings of this before. Of if we have an electric car with all this electronics and all this sensing, what's to prevent a foreign power, Russia, China, from filling those things with probably not explosives, though that's a concern, but with remote sensors, things that will allow them to gather signals intelligence and relay it back in the form of diagnostics.
Somewhere in China, somebody's sitting behind a desk saying, "Oh, Mr. Franklin ass getting really big right now."
We're going to get in trouble just for that.
I can't say that.
Sensors, baby. But I seriously could see, let's say you wanted to take all these electronic vehicles and then overcharge the batteries. That's a pretty big, take a look at the small note phones that were starting fires.
Yeah.
You overload a battery on an electric vehicle. That's probably a bonfire in the middle of,
and you could burn down.
Right? So I could definitely see that.
You could burn down 50,000 buildings.
And you can do that without installing a little charge firecracker or anything like that. You can do that just by heating it up.
Disabling the safety circuit. That's it. Yeah, absolutely.
So in light of that, we're starting to get to the point where countries are starting to think about what's possible versus what's happened before. And so this also cuts the other way. Some people would say, well, what about Tesla? You got Tesla vehicles in China and Russia, and China's made noises about not allowing American-made electric cars to go within certain regions of China. Well, you can't own a car that's not allowed to drive through
wherever,
a random city every once in a while. That doesn't work.
Right.
And so it put a lot of people thinking, well, what's that mean? So it's one of the reasons I don't think Chinese electric cars will catch on in the United States. I think that this is going to be one of those stovepipe things where Europe and the United States will eventually make their own electric cars, and China and Russia will make their own electric cars. And it's part of the deglobalization efforts, not efforts, but just forces. It's something that you have to think about because you can hide a lot of stuff in the software for an electric car. And almost all of them are following Tesla's lead where they're over-the-air upgradable. So it doesn't have to have a vulnerability or an attack in it today. They can wait until there's going to be a conflict in the Taiwan Straits, and then they send the bad data, the bad update.
Or if you want to be truly doomsday, before they send missiles to America, they could disable all the electric cars so that we wouldn't be able to...
Or get the GPS out of them to know where to send them.
Yeah.
Disabling the electric cars would be the most... the nicest thing they could do. The fires is a much bigger thing because you'd burn houses and buildings.
Yeah, sure.
And people in the cars.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially, I don't know how you would unlock the door.
Yeah, that's true.
If you lock all the doors and then set it to
oh wow, that
overload.
took an evil turn. That took a much more evil turn even than I suspected.
This is the downside of globalization. I'm a huge fan of it in general when everybody plays nice, but when they don't, there's supply chain attacks increase.
Globalization is dying. It's not dead.
Yeah, well, it certainly is now, you know, but I think the answer is, peace.
Hey,
peace?
Okay, now, I said the P word. Whoa.
What are you, a hippie?
What is that?
I know. What kind of tree-hugging, two-sandwich-eating liberal are you? Edie Brickell listening?
Peace through superior firepower.
It's interesting. I've been thinking about some of these style of attacks. For example, let's say you had a scale in your house. We all have scales. Let's say your scale is eating too much battery. Would any of us notice? If I had to replace the battery every 3 months as opposed to every year, maybe.
Another way they can tell in China how fat my ass is.
But let's say there's a massive capacitor in that scale that just constantly drains the battery. You put a new one in, drains it, put a new one in, it drains it. And when it has enough power, it just pops,
explodes,
and discharges the whole thing. Like, I don't know who would catch that.
Fire has it.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. There was a USB device you could plug into a laptop that would charge up capacitors, like Dwayne's saying. And when they were fully charged, it would release a lightning bolt that would destroy the computer, like completely physically destroy it.
Yeah. Like cook right across. Yeah. Yeah.
Like crazy. Lightning hit it. And it would have been dangerous to be sitting at that laptop.
Yep.
Wow. So those bathroom scales, they really toast your nuts.
Only if you position them right.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
All right. Shall we get to the clickbait now?
Oh, let's do it.
And this isn't clickbait. This is a really, really big problem. So the story is severe unauthenticated RCE flaw, remote code execution, with a CVSS score of 9.9 in GNU/Linux systems.
Yeah.
That means all GNU Linux systems, right?
Yep.
Awaiting full disclosure. In other words, there's no patch yet. We don't know the whole story, but we do know that the vulnerability is there.
Wasn't one of your teams, Dwayne, saying that the code that they're talking about has been in there for 10 years?
No. Well, this was just announced 3 weeks ago to the vendors to fix it. The problem is we're on a ticker. We're on a time frame here because September 30th. Initial disclosure to OpenWall. October 6th, they're looking at releasing the
details.
The details. So they're
deets.
They're going to release the details of this. So
the hot goss.
Yeah, and wow. Like we've seen these types of things, like this type of an exploit, Patrick, you're right, could exist, could have been in the operating system for 20 years, right? Look at the sudo edit bug. That's been in there since sudo edit was invented, just nobody found it.
What's Genesis got to do with this? And Phil Collins, Susudio?
Pseudo
wow. Wow.
Sorry. Had to make that joke.
We don't know what this bug entails yet. We'll keep an eye on it, but yeah, you'll see over the next couple of weeks here that we will announce some super important Linux update that you definitely want to go patch.
Patrick, there must be some misunderstanding. There must be some kind of mistake.
That's right. There must be some kind of mistake. It's a world of confusion.
Yeah. I waited in the rain for hours. You were
There's
late.
Something in the air tonight.
We just lost our one listener.
Maybe they're a Phil Collins fan. You never know.
We're laughing here because this is so ridiculously horrible. So this means that any Linux system that is on the internet
could be
has this unauthenticated RCE flaw. Dwayne, are you going to tell us how to exploit it?
Maybe next week on Secret.
It's criminal career advice.
I'm so disappointed.
And it's worse because any Linux-based like set-top box or other utility box is going to have this problem too.
Yeah. Another reason why you shouldn't put your refrigerator on the internet.
Right?
I agree.
Yeah.
It should only be on the intranet.
So hopefully by next week, there'll be a patch.
Hopefully.
Or a fix.
Although it sounds like different vendors are arguing about the right way to do it. So we'll see. Wow. We'll see what happens.
I guarantee one of those vendors is arguing that they shouldn't do it.
Absolutely.
Probably right.
Yeah.
Working as designed.
Have there been any breaches that we know of?
Not announced yet. But my guess is once this is fully released, we'll go back and say, oh yeah, this is how they got access to these systems.
And then it's open
once
season.
It's patched.
Right.
Yeah. Unless it's patched. Well, again, it's not going to be a rolling patch. It's not going to be a patch that is coordinated between all the vendors at the same time.
Right.
Right.
You're right. Because all those different flavors of Linux control their own distros.
Right.
Yeah. There's a tight time frame on that.
Man. Wow. Good luck, everybody. I hope you make it through next week, and we'll see you then.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys.